I just want a second look.
Yeah, there's something about this one, isn't there? It's familiar somehow.
We think we're stuck in a specific fragment in time, and we've been repeating that same fragment over and over.
But the flirting's over, Sherlock. Daddy's had enough now.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, TV reviews and connections of mine. That's right, movies aren't the only thing on this channel, and television is just as likely as movies to borrow from things that have come before it. And to start off this new segment, I thought I'd do a series that we've all been waiting for since 2015, that of Marvel's The Defenders. Now, this goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. This video review will definitely contain spoilers of Marvel's The Defenders, as well as a couple other things. There will be a full list in the description below. And if you've not seen The Defenders yet, or at least finished The Defenders, and want to wait until you have, stop the video at this point and come back later. But with these things in mind, though, let's begin. So The Defenders is the culmination of all of the Netflix Marvel series that have come before it, starting in 2015 with Charlie Cox as Daredevil, then continuing through Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones, Mike Coulter as Luke Cage, and finally Finn Jones as the Iron Fist, Danny Rand. And then Defenders sees all four of these heroes join forces in order to fight a mysterious force known as the Hand in the streets of New York City. Now, there are several things about the Defenders that you've definitely seen before, so let's start with the obvious ones and go from there. The main bit of comparison between the Defenders, and it's something that has definitely been cropped up in conversation since they announced the Defenders back in 2015, is the fact that the Defenders is essentially the Netflix Marvel version of the Avengers. And not only just in character development, but also in the way that they rolled it out, you can definitely see the comparison. The Netflix Marvel series, at least how they've released their seasons, has definitely been is reminiscent of the Phase 1 of the MCU, namely the fact that each character has had their own series to develop their own side characters, their backstories. They've each had a adventure of their own, and to one extent or another, each series features in the Defenders in one form or another. And even down to the fact that the first Netflix Marvel series to release, Daredevil, got its second season before any of the others series did, and before the Defenders. Much like how Iron Man was the first film of the MCU, and it got its sequel before the Avengers, and before any of the other movie characters got their sequels as well. But it's not just an execution of the Marvel Netflix series that it's similar to the Avengers, it's also in the characters. What do I mean by that? Well, there's definitely a comparison to be made between, there is a fight in the Defenders at first between Luke Cage and Iron Fist that is reminiscent of the fight in the Avengers between Captain America and Thor, in that all four of these characters are essentially a unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, and to one extent or another, that's essentially how that fight plays out. Daredevil also has a fallback to his old outfit, in which there's a scene right before the hallway fight that is teased in the trailers of the Defenders, in which he borrows Jessica Jones' scarf and puts it over his head, and it looks very similar to his black suit that he wore throughout most of Season 1 of Daredevil. And it's very reminiscent of how Captain America and the Avengers got a throwback costume for the Avengers that's supposed to be reminiscent of his old uniform from the 40s and 50s, or at least how they were portrayed on Captain America baseball cards or trading cards from Phil Coulson. Jessica Jones can also be seen as sort of an Iron Man analog, in that both Jessica Jones and Tony Stark are essentially loner characters. They don't really like to work on teams, but they are essentially forced into working with a team in order to face the impending threat that they all face. Of course, there's another comparison in the villain side of the Defenders, namely in the form of Elektra. Now, Elektra, if you may recall from Daredevil Season 2, was a friend of and lover of Daredevil, and she died at the end of Daredevil Season 2, but she was brought back to life by the Hand, and she is essentially their weapon against them. But by midway through the Defenders, she kills the Hand's leader and essentially takes over, and she essentially becomes the main enemy of the Defenders for the rest of the series. This is very reminiscent of Loki from the Avengers in that Loki and Thor had a brotherly relationship, but of course Loki became the villain. But throughout the Avengers, they have a certain bond between them, and it allows Thor to deal more directly with Loki for good or bad. And there is in fact a scene in the Avengers where, a couple of scenes in fact, where Thor appeals directly to Loki as a brother in order to get him to stop the madness, essentially. Very reminiscent of the Defenders when Daredevil is fighting Elektra and he's trying to get through to her, but she's been brainwashed and to a certain extent, and she's trying to kill them, essentially. Now, aside from the Avengers, there's another comparison that can be made with Elektra in the Defenders. Namely, she's very reminiscent of Bucky Barnes in Captain America the Winter Soldier, in which both of these characters are brainwashed and they were presumed dead by the character who cared for them, and they are very skilled fighters, and in the end, both Elektra and the Winter Soldier essentially see the goodness in themselves, or it's brought to see for them to see the goodness in themselves by, in Elektra's case, Daredevil, and in Bucky Barnes' case, Captain America. Outside of Marvel, there's another comparison that can be made, namely, in the events of the Defenders, it's brought to light that the Hand has been digging a hole underneath Manhattan, and they find that there's a substance buried underneath New York, that this substance is what the Hand has been using for millennia in order to make themselves essentially immortal. It resurrects them. It's what it was used to resurrect Elektra in the beginning. Now they've run out of it, and now they're tunneling under New York to use it. But they encounter a door there put up by the Masters of Kunlun, and it's revealed that only an Iron Fist can unlock the door. And, of course, Danny Rand is kidnapped by the Hand and is forced to unlock this door in order for the Hand to reach the substance. Now, this is very reminiscent of another superhero character, namely Hellboy. If you recall, in Hellboy's feature film and in his comics, it was revealed that his stone hand is a key to a doorway that will release the seven gods of chaos into the earth, and he is essentially forced to unlock the door in order to by the villains of that movie. Now, on the more miscellaneous side of things, there's an interesting comparison in the Defenders, in which in the finale, the Defenders successfully beat the Hand. They have planted explosives in the building above where they're digging this hole to find the substance, but Matt Murdock stays behind in order to fight Elektra and give the others time to evacuate. And when the building finally collapses, everyone believes that Daredevil has sacrificed himself in order to save the city, which was his plan all along. And and obviously the rest of the Defenders are affected by this, as well as those who love Matt Murdock. But it's revealed at the very end of the Defenders that Matt Murdock actually survived that incident, and he is injured, but he's recovering in what appears to be a church of some sort. Now, this is very reminiscent of the Season 3 finale of Star Trek Enterprise, in which Captain Archer is trying to defeat the Xindi superweapon above Earth. He successfully beats the main bad guy, and he's trying to get off the Xindi weapon. The Xindi weapon explodes, and the crew of Enterprise assumes that Captain Archer is dead, and he has sacrificed himself to save Earth. Which, I mean, it's not something out of the realm of possibility, and for all intents and purposes, that's what everyone assumed it was, and it's what he probably would have done. But at the end of the episode, it's revealed that he actually survived, and through series events, he's found himself in a tent in New York with Nazi German troops there. So out of all of these comparisons, the main question is, should you see the Defenders? Is it worth seeing after all the events that have led up to this moment? Is it worth it? I would say yes. This is definitely something that we've been waiting for. It's something they build up to, and all the Netflix Marvel series have been great. And even Iron Fist, which is the one that everyone believes is a disappointment, and it really was. It was good in its own way, and it was necessary in order to establish things for the Defenders. And an interesting filmmaking tidbit, which I'm convinced is not an accident in the Defenders, is worth seeing if you spot it. In the earlier episodes, when they're reestablishing each character, they're showing each hero in their own worlds before they all meet each other and unite. Each character has essentially their own lighting scheme that is reflecting of their characters and in their character design. You can see this with in Daredevil's scenes. You can see there's a lot of reds in lighting around his scenes in set design, either lighting or carpets, whatever. With Jessica Jones's scenes, there's a lot of blues and purples as well. In Luke Cage's scenes, there's a lot of yellows and browns as well. And in Iron Fist, Daniel Rand's scenes, there's a lot of greens and golds. So there's an interesting filmmaking tidbit, which I'm convinced is not an accident. If you haven't seen it yet, go look for those in the earlier episodes. Yeah, it's a fun little thing to spot. And yeah, I would say this is definitely a series that did not disappoint. It's definitely the right length. I would say one of the main complaints that people have, if any, of the Netflix Marvel series is out of 13 episodes, there's definitely 1 or 2 episodes that were essentially filler material and they were not necessarily good episodes. The Defenders being only 8 episodes is exactly the right length that it needed to be, and I would say there's really nothing in there that it feels extraneous or cut or needing to be cut. It is definitely the right length, and there's plenty of action as well, and this is something that I would definitely recommend you go see. So it is now on Netflix. Go ahead and watch it. So there's my review of Marvel's The Defenders. I sure hope you enjoyed this. This is my first TV review on this channel. I hope you enjoyed it. The next one I will be doing will be for the pilot episode of Star Trek Discovery, which will be airing near the end of September. And this will be important because CBS is only airing the pilot episode on their on air, and they're moving there. But then after that, they're only releasing future episodes exclusively on CBS All Access. So if it turns out that the pilot of Star Trek Discovery is bad, then you might want to know about it because you might not want to invest in CBS All Access to see how the rest of it goes out if it turns out to be not good. So definitely look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I get. And just remember, there's nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before. So until next time, thank you for watching.